Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda is other business, and the first item under other business is the presentation by the 300 Committee, who everyone in town should know has done a wonderful job helping us with management of conservation land. And I guess they're going to tell us about that and maybe something else.
All kinds of things.
Okay, welcome.
Great introduction, thank you. I wonder, is
Maybe
there a way to hit
lights.
the lights?
You want the light?
Just, well, it's a little hard to see, isn't it? It's hard for me to
It
see,
is.
maybe that's just
There
me.
we go.
Oh, perfect. So I'm Emily Kellendorfer, I'm the president of the 300 Committee Land Trust, and we're here to update you on the status of open space in Falmouth. I'm going to give you a little overview of what's been going on since the last time we talked, and then I have 2/3 of the 300 Committee's awesome staff here. Jessica Rittenauer, the 300 Committee's administrator, and Alex Etkind, who's the 300 Committee's stewardship coordinator for all of, I think, 2 months, are going to give you some information on some current projects. Of course, the first thing that happened that I guess I can't ignore in the last couple of months was the death of Beth Schwartzman. And she was very well known in this town. She was an ecologist, geologist, amazing person. She was a 300 Committee board member. And she did so many things from us that we're still uncovering what she's unable to do for us anymore. So that's a terrible loss for us. I just wanted to mention that because we're still reeling from it.
But she's left a wonderful legacy of descriptions of conservation land and maps.
She has. She's an amazing person. So yes, she has left a great legacy. That's true. The 300 Committee was formed 27 years ago as an independent nonprofit organization solely for the purpose of preserving land in Falmouth. And we try to educate the public and about the use and the maintenance of land that is protected as open space. We have in excess of 1,200 members currently. In those 27 years, the 300 Committee has helped the town of Falmouth and the Concom to preserve something on the order of 2,300 acres of land in the town of Falmouth, and that's through purchases that the 300 Committee helped raise funds for, purchases by the town, by the 300 Committee, by ad hoc partnerships that would spring up to save a parcel. It also includes conservation restrictions, and it includes gifts of land. Of course, the 300 Committee shares the goal of open space with the town of Falmouth and the Conservation Commission. The most recent goal was in 2008 when the Falmouth Planning Board said that Falmouth should have a goal of preserving 30% of the town landmass as open space. And we're at about not quite 21% now. So a lot has been done, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. And this is an unveiling of the 300 Committee's new conservation map that shows all of Falmouth. This was actually produced mostly by Beth Schwartzman. It shows the distribution of open space in the town of Falmouth. It identifies town-owned land versus 300 Committee-owned land and land owned by other land trusts in Falmouth. It also shows conservation restrictions, etc. It's a great tool. I think it's really pretty. And it's on sale at the 300 Committee office for, I think, $2? $2 a copy, and that's just to cover our costs of production. A little commercial. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that one of the 300 Committee's long-term goals is preserving land along the Coonamessett River. The Coonamessett is Falmouth's only free-flowing river, and the 300 Committee shares the goal of creating a greenway, a kind of linkage of open space with the town of Falmouth. And you can see that there's a certain amount of work that still needs to be done. The goal, of course, is to protect the adjacent wetlands and all the habitat along the river. Any questions? Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Emily. I'm Jessica Rittenauer. I'm the administrator of the 300 Committee, and I'm going to speak a little bit about some of our current projects and some presentation of our stewardship activities, and Alex Etkind, our stewardship coordinator, will finish the presentation by highlighting some of the specific stewardship activities that have happened over the last several months. The last time we were here presenting was in March 2012. And I know you've seen the T-Ticket Park concept plan. You're familiar with the site. You know that it was purchased by the 300 Committee in December 2011. What's happened since March, our last presentation, is that the conservation restriction was finalized and approved by the state and has been recorded with the Registry of Deeds. That was finalized at the end of May. This conservation restriction itself is held by the town of Falmouth through the Board of Selectmen, which was a requirement of the park grant. And the CR will ensure that the land is always protected for passive recreational use. We also have a 300 Committee working group. It's the T-Ticket Park Working Group, which is a subset of our Board of Directors. They've been working over the course of the past several months to refine the plans for the park. We're focusing now, I'm going to see if I can get this to work. This line here, that's probably difficult to see, but I'm tracing it with red. That's the limit of work for phase 1, which we're calling the streetscape phase. What we have done is refine the construction documents, and this fall, our goal is to complete the demolition. Some of the site work has already happened, removing the buildings, and we need to remove some of the other elements on the parcel and do rough grading this fall. And the goal is in the spring to come in and install the handicap accessible park entry paths and the plantings and the parking lot. The remaining aspects of the parcel, the wetland restoration, the remaining ADA compliant trails, picnic grove, all will be completed in phases. We're continuing to raise funds for the project, and we will be able to implement the project as funds are raised to complete it. But primarily our goal for this fall is to begin the site preparation work for the streetscape so that the plantings and the paths can go in the early spring. Couple other, these are sort of special projects that the 300 Committee has been involved with for the past year or so. We'll continue to be involved with them, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here this evening because both of these projects, I understand, will be coming before this board at some point in time with recommendations. The Little Pond Conservation Area, the Community Preservation Committee has formed a subcommittee, and they're working with Horsley Witten Group on a restoration plan, conceptual plan, for the conservation portion, the 9.6 acres that's under a conservation restriction held by the 300 Committee. And the 300 Committee participates on that subcommittee. I attend the meetings, and Jen McKay, and along with several other members of the CPC. And I believe later this fall there'll be some additional public meetings to show some of the drafts of the concept plan. The Breivogle Working Group is an ongoing committee that the 300 Committee established a little more than a year ago to address some of the needs at the Breivogle Conservation Area. It was 63 acres purchased with land bank funds, and we have an opportunity to work with the DNR, with Concom staff, and a variety of folks, the land steward and representatives from the 300 Committee, to create a management plan and a restoration plan. It has been determined to be a high priority in terms of land management planning because of some of the issues related to ATVs. We're working with Joanne Muramoto to draft the land management plan and hope to bring that forward to you with some recommendations for short-term and long-term measures. A few examples of some of our group service projects that have been playing with the AmeriCorps Cape Cod program. The Cape Cod program focuses on land and water conservation, and they try to work in all towns. Over the summer, the AmeriCorps group spent 2 days working at the Cardoza Conservation Area, and the land steward there, Peter Kroll, sent an email, paragraphs listing what was taken from the site in terms of invasive plants, vines, trash, scrap metal, a significant cleanup. And apparently there's more work that needs to be done there. It's a large conservation parcel, as you know, and we're hoping to work with AmeriCorps again this fall and with the land stewards to identify a few more projects there. Bartolome Conservation Area is another where the AmeriCorps group spent a day back in July, focusing primarily on invasive species removal. And Bartolome is one of the town-owned parcels that was bought with community preservation funds a few years ago. This is an example of an AmeriCorps service project that was done by the AmeriCorps. This entrance trail here at the Flume Pond parcel, which is on Sippawisset Road, was approved by the Concom through an Eagle Scout project. Jacob Brown completed that project and here and at the Punch Bowl. And what AmeriCorps did, working with the land stewards, Pam Poloni and Carol Knox, was design a loop trail. They spent a considerable amount of time working to ensure that they were avoiding sensitive habitat and that type of thing. The Coalition for Buzzards Bay holds a conservation restriction on this parcel. So we had to work with their staff in ensuring that the trail would be okay within the conservation restriction guidelines. There is a small component here that goes towards the wetland area, and some additional projects in the future include Phragmites removal over here. There would be a possible extension of a monitoring trail. But this is an example of a site where we're working to create some public access, walking access, while being sensitive to the fragile resources that are there. The last example of an AmeriCorps project is the Land Bank Atlas, and I believe Jen has a copy of it here tonight. This was put together by, AmeriCorps has what's called an individual placement, which is a regular service project where a member will work with an organization through the duration of a year to complete a project. And one of the important items that the 300 Committee wanted to have all in one place were all of the documents on properties that were purchased with land bank funds. The deed, the town meeting vote, confirmation of whose jurisdiction the land is under. In many cases, it's the Board of Selectmen. In many cases, it's the Concom. In a few cases, the school committee has jurisdiction or joint jurisdiction with the Board of Selectmen. And we looked at whether or not the parcels have a conservation restriction. So in total, the 903 acres purchased with land bank funds and the $28 million that was invested is distributed throughout town, and the Land Bank Atlas includes all the documentation on those properties. We have had a meeting with town council and with conservation staff to begin discussions of process for conservation restrictions on many of the land bank parcels that do not currently have a conservation restriction. We feel, the 300 Committee feels it's an important recommendation for the town to consider because the land bank funds were intended to be used for properties to be preserved in perpetuity as open space. And in some cases, recreation. And the town meeting vote and the deed language is typically very clear on that. So this Land Bank Atlas that was put together by AmeriCorps and 300 Committee staff, I hope will be helpful as the 300 Committee and hopefully the Conservation Commission work together to ensure that many of these lands are permanently protected with conservation restrictions. So we'll have more information on this in the future, and just wanted to give you this update and know that this information is here and records are available in the Conservation Office. Okay, as I'm transitioning over to Alex speaking, I'll just take a minute to explain the 300 Committee's decision to create a part-time land stewardship coordinator position. We have worked with volunteer land stewards over the course of the 300 Committee's existence, and we have an unbelievable group of volunteers who are very committed and dedicated to land preservation. We have always had work days and these types of things to manage land, but there's been an increasing need for more stewardship at a lot of the parcels. We're acquiring more open space. The 300 Committee has a couple of significant purchases that we recently made, T-Ticket Park, Riverbend, and also our stewardship program covers the maintenance or the management of town-owned open space as well. So our board recognized that need and said we need an additional staff person who can help us to leverage and build our already existing volunteer program so that we can continue to meet the needs and meet the increasing needs. So in June of 2012, our board advertised the position, and we had an extensive search and received over 20 applications, and are thrilled in the decision that we made to hire Alex Etkind. He was with the Wildlands Trust previously, working through the AmeriCorps Mass Lift program, and had a great experience working with stewardship programs and land stewards. And we're delighted to have him on board, and he's going to share a little bit about what the position, what he's involved with the 300 Committee, and the types of projects that we anticipate doing later this year.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
And welcome, Alex, to Falmouth and to the Conservation Commission. We hope we'll see you again.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. So yes, I'm Alex Etkind, Stewardship Coordinator at the 300 Committee. And the last couple of years I've been serving as the AmeriCorps Land Steward with Wildlands Trust, which is a regional land trust covering all of southeastern Massachusetts, from Hull down the coast to Bourne and west to Swansea and the Rhode Island border. So I've worked with many towns in the area, but I feel especially lucky to be here in Falmouth. Not just because of the natural beauty of the area, but really it's the people, all the volunteers that I've met through the 300 Committee, as well as just folks around town who I can really tell that people care about the land here, and that's exciting. I see the main goal of my position really to increase the stewardship capacity of both the 300 Committee Land Trust and the town of Falmouth, and preserve and improve the unique relationship that they have moving forward. As I mentioned, there's a lot of volunteers in place, so my job is almost to kind of steer them in the right direction and kind of make sure the projects that we're working on are, that we're working on the projects where there's the most need. And along with that, I see myself as being available to the town of Falmouth to assist on land projects. I'll be acquiring a mobile GPS unit, so I'll be available to ground truth data in the field and just kind of work on building stewardship of all the properties here in town. I also see promoting environmental education and outreach is going hand in hand with stewardship, and I like to incorporate that into as many of the volunteer opportunities as possible. I've also been providing guidance for a few Eagle Scout projects, one which you may hear presented tonight.
We hope so.
Yes. And I also have plans to work on the stewardship database, which includes the essentials that you might think of, listing of acreage and history of purchases, but also I really want to expand on that to include more of a habitat focus and try to figure out more about the flora and fauna on each of our properties, and try to engage the public in that as well. This is one of our volunteers up at the Coonamessett Reservation, doing some of the field mowing up there. There are 3 different properties that came to mind off the top of my head where 300 Committee volunteers are volunteering their time and their equipment, in this case the old John Deere tractor, to restore and maintain some of the field habitat. And they're not just being mowed to look pretty. They're being mowed at certain times of the year to coordinate with grassland birds, and we're looking at the height that we mow as well to increase the native grassland species. It's great to have people like this in place. Trail work is another big aspect of our volunteer stewardship, and big focus for that is really just to provide the best access for the public, while also preserving the special places. You can see you don't need a tractor or a chainsaw to be a volunteer. These are volunteers doing field work along the lines of ecological assessment. Both of these pictures are taken at Brivogel. And I also plan to go out with the Cape Cod Botany Club in November to do a further botanic inventory, and one of the things we're going to work on in November is, kind of delineating different areas of vegetation and soils, and then the idea is to get some of those areas recorded with a GPS unit, and then be able to use those layers towards the ongoing restoration plan. We also have, I believe Jessica mentioned the land steward program that we have, which is really a great thing, in which an individual will adopt a specific property, either a 300 committee property or a town property, and they regularly spend time there and take part in the annual monitoring. And this is a picture of us. This is a spotted knapweed pull at T-Ticket Park. And a lot of what I see as volunteer stewardship, I see it going the direction of kind of a proactive management, where you want to deal with issues beforehand, before things get out of control. So in this case, we're taking care of some of the seed bed of invasives that are at T-Ticket Park before work begins there. So it's great to have people involved, and there's really just so many different ways for people to be involved and volunteer. Looking forward over the next year, a couple of big things we have coming up is our annual monitoring of all the conservation lands, and this includes both lands owned by the 300 Committee as well as town lands, as well as conservation restrictions that the 300 Committee holds over public and private land. It's really impressive to be coming to a land trust that already has this program in place and that is already doing the annual monitoring. Definitely work with other towns that aren't as far ahead on that extent. That's something we want to keep going. We also have a few upcoming volunteer work days, so we'll be setting a date for a work day in November at Coonamessett Reservation to try to do some field restoration. And the winter trail crew is also coming up. We're always looking to hear from more volunteers, and again, I'm just really excited to be here in town, and I hope to see you all out on the properties. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Before you sit down,
Sure.
we'll see if there are any questions.
One comment. One of the properties, the Sea Farms, I'm very familiar with the activities out there and been very fortunate that way. It's also very nice to hear someone excited. My only word of advice to you is to pace yourself.
Sure.
This is definitely a long-distance haul. You sound very excited, very knowledgeable. We are fortunate that the groundwork that you mentioned has been established for a number of years. We are a very proactive community. We have a lot of people and a very deep volunteer resource. Welcome aboard, enjoy your time, and pace yourself.
Thank you. Sounds like great advice.
Okay. Any other questions here? Ed, Michelle?
No, good.
Okay, we look forward to your next presentation, whenever that should be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emily and Jess?
One
Yeah.
question, where do we get the maps for $2?
At the 300 Committee office, which
Okay.
is at 157 Locust Street.
Okay, thank you.
You can pull into the bike path parking lot and the stairs.
And look for the 300 committee sign.
It's Monday through Friday, regular business hours.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. I guess we'll leave this up because we're probably going to have another PowerPoint.
Last time.
Okay. Okay, our next presentation is Proposed Trail Work, aha, by Lucas Brown, Eagle Scout Project. Now, Lucas has been before us a couple of weeks ago, so he's had some practice already.
I have.
Good evening, Lucas.
Good evening. As we're getting the PowerPoint up, as you heard, my name is Lucas Brown. I am a Life Scout from Boy Scout Troop 42, and I'm working on my Eagle project for the Eagle rank badge. Basically, my project is to propose trails that form loops of 2 existing trails. The parcels I'm working on are owned by the 300 Committee, and they are located in East Falmouth. They are the Allen parcel and Hayway parcel, north of Carrot Shop, west of Hayway. So, as I mentioned, the project is to extend 2 trails on Falmouth conservation land. I have coordinated with the 300 committee, who's been a great help, by the way. Thank you. They have guided me. And I also worked with Michelle West, who has made this wonderful map for me that you will see shortly. The original plan, so the 2 parcels that I'm proposing trail work on, the Allen parcel and the Hayway parcel, are split by a wetlands, and the original plan was to form a trail connecting 2 trail systems across the wetlands, but that proved impossible since the wetlands were too thickly filled with brush. So we decided to loop 2 trails. It's approximately 1.5 to 2 miles of new trail. Okay, here's the map. On the left is the Allen parcel, and on the right is the Hayway parcel. The green is the wetlands. The existing trails are the solid white lines, and the proposed trails are the yellow lines, the yellow dotted lines. Both proposed trails travel along a ridge along the wetlands for a ways, so that visitors can look in and see the ecological processes that go on there and be exposed to the natural beauty of the wetlands. The trails are far enough away from the wetlands that they won't disturb anything. And as I understand it, the 300 committee and conservation committee have proposed changes to the Allen Trail, which is pushing it farther away from the wetlands at one point, which I'm fine with. So I will work with them in the future. Okay, the objectives are to open up new trails so that the wetlands can be viewed for, because wetlands are really part of the natural beauty of Falmouth, as Alex mentioned. Falmouth is really a pretty town. It's filled with nature, and wetlands are part of that people don't actually get to see that often because there are many trails through them. And these new trails will allow them to go and see the unique ecosystem. It also provides, trails for hikers who want to exercise or walk their dogs, whatever. Okay. The methods. Basically, I would propose to ask the 300 committee to borrow some of their gas-powered brush cutters to do the majority of the groundwork and clear away the brush. Then I would use volunteers, namely scouts from my Boy Scout troop, to use clippers and remove the excess growth and vegetation along the edge of the trail, and I would follow through with rakes to rake the clippings off the trail. The trees are fairly sparse where my trails go through. My proposed trails go through, so there wouldn't be any need to take out any trees, dead or alive. Okay. I have begun groundwork on this project. I met with Jessica Rittenauer, who's, you just met, 300 committee. She's my contact. She helped me identify the project and help plan. I inspected the site with Jessica and Michelle from the 300 committee, you know her. Then I flagged 2 proposed trails with my brother Jacob Brown. He's the Eagle Scout who did the trail work on Flume Pond, around Flume Pond, and my father Russell Brown, who happens to be the Scoutmaster of Boy Scout Troop 42. I did separate walkthroughs of the proposed trails with Michelle and Alex, and as I understand it, the 300 committee has also walked my flag trails, and I scheduled a meeting on the 24th, which is tonight, and I'm here. My recruitment plan, first of all, Boy Scouts from my troop, and other troops around the Cape Cod area. I go to a school in Hyannis, which is not selective by town, so I come into contact with lots of different troops from all over Cape Cod. Family and friends. And I attend Sturgis Charter Public School, which is a school that follows the International Baccalaureate Diploma, which is a special high school diploma. And one of the requirements for that is called CAS, which stands for Creativity, Activity, and Service. And what it is it essentially encourages students to participate in extracurricular activities. In the service requirement, kids often need the service requirement to complete the requirement. If you failed the CAS, then you don't actually get your diploma. So I would recruit students from my school as well. Okay. I don't expect major safety issues going along these trails. The gas-powered bushwhackers would not be handled by kids. I would get adults to handle them. Protecting against prickers and poison ivy, I would go over with the volunteers what they look like. Long pants, gloves, bug spray, although it's kind of cold out, I don't think we would need them. Remind people about ticks constantly. The Boy Scouts actually have not an award, kind of a badge for use of sharp objects such as saws and axes, and I see this as a way to kind of teach kids about dangerous things, but I would instruct on the safe use of the saws and clippers. And sunscreen and appropriate weather wear would be stuff like, if it's cold, a hat. If it's raining, rain jacket. Okay, so if this project is approved by the 300 committee, I would need to get my Boy Scout Council's approval and then schedule work sessions, the 300 committees, and schedule a day to go through with the brush-powered cutters to lay the groundwork before I schedule a regular work day with other volunteers and go through with clippers and stuff. That's my presentation.
Thanks. Any questions?
Lucas, can you put the slide up with the map back on?
Can I, the map?
Thank you.
So when do you anticipate doing this?
What?
When?
When? I would hope to get the majority of the work done before December. Well, yeah, and before the turn of the year. But if it proves to be too cold, then I can push it back to spring. I have a deadline of my 18th birthday, which is in a year and 9 months. So hopefully I can get this trail done before then.
But you're hoping to do it in the next month or two?
What?
In the next month or two?
Yeah.
November, December? Good. I just have a comment, and that is the presentations we heard earlier and your presentation talking about walking along the wetlands. The 300 committee also sponsored a talk last night by Craig Gibson, who's the bird photographer, for those of you who look at the birds. Ed was there too. The birds in, every week he sent something into the newspaper. And every parcel that was mentioned tonight, he actually mentioned in his talk. I mean, he goes and he hits all these spots. And one of the real advantages of the kinds of trails that you're making here is that, of course, like warblers, when warblers are migrating, they'll look for areas like along these wetlands. And the other thing, and I'll just give a little plug for the 300 committee, Craig has put a book together of birds of Falmouth. He actually takes bird pictures all over the place, but he has a house in Falmouth, and he really, obviously from his talk last night, spends a lot of time looking for his treasures, as he says. And so that book, as well as the map, can also be purchased at the 300 committee. So, well, thank you. Any, questions?
Yeah. I just wanted to say what a pleasure it was to work with Lucas and help him on this project. I am the 300 Committee steward for the Allen parcel, which is why I'm involved. And it was through one of my annual reports that I had mentioned it would be nice to have additional trails. And I would walk along the existing trail. There's the one in white. There's a little bit more off to the left as well. And I noticed that when I would walk these trails, it was mostly flat where the trails were, and I would just see trees and not the wetland that is so close. So when walking the proposed trail with Lucas, it's a lot more varied topography where the proposed trail is. It's much more interesting, a landscape, and you do get glimpses of the wetland. And maybe something in the future could be a bigger project of a boardwalk or something that could connect the two trail systems. But obviously that was much too big of a project in this case. But it is a very nice area, and I know that I heard some wood thrushes when I was out there walking, and I love that sound. So I'm excited to see the finished product. So, good job.
Yeah, it's very good, and since you know others in your troop and your dad's here, we really like these projects. Every year we have a couple, and I think it's really, it gives you a lot more sense of stewardship of your own town doing this, and we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Do we need to vote this? Yeah, make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the trail as proposed and modified slightly by the Conservation Commission.
I second.
Okay. One motion, 2 seconds, and how many votes for?
Aye.
Votes against? Looks like it's unanimous. Thanks very much.
Good luck, Lucas.
Nice presentation.
Okay, next thing is to vote minutes of the 12th of October. Let me see. This was last week. Yeah. Well, I read these minutes, and I didn't have any, we'll do that in a minute. I didn't have any comments on this one. Anybody else?
Is that
No.
October 12th?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to,
Make a motion to accept as discussed. On October
do I have a
12th.
second? I have to have a second from one of the two of you, because Ed wasn't here. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, on the minutes of the 17th, Susan, are you with me? Right at the end, we had an enforcement issue for JEV Realty LLC, and we voted on the enforcement issue, and then we opened up, was it the amendment, Jen? Was it an amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Then we opened up the amendment, and we had the discussion. We had just heard the discussion, so it was the same discussion. And then we closed the hearing on the amendment. And so we need that vote in here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so you have the enforcement hearing, but then we opened up an amendment, a hearing on the amendment, and then we closed it to take it under advisement. So Jen will show you.
Make a motion to accept the October 17th minutes with the adjustments discussed.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, request to continue under a notice of intent. Augustine and Denise Centola, 123 Sherwood Drive, for permission to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new single-family house with attached deck, farmer's porch, installed dry wells, utilities, driveway, native mitigation plantings, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested continuance till November 7th.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and that's Tommy's first project on his own, and he's prepared for it. Okay, are there any comments? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is a continuance to November 7th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Request for a determination of applicability to determine whether the proposed work will remove dredge, fill, build upon, degrade, or otherwise alter an area subject to protection. James Tichy, 352 Scranton Avenue, for permission to remove a 2,000-gallon underground storage tank and fiberglass fuel line, check soils for contamination, backfill, and pave over. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, we've contacted the applicant and requested that they ask for a continuance until October 31st to provide a more detailed methodology to remove the tank. We don't really have an issue with the removal of the tank and the remediation work. We just need a more,
How are they going to do it?
yeah, comprehensive methodology.
Right.
And we haven't heard from the applicant yet, but
Yeah.
I would just continue this
Yeah.
to the 31st.
Yep.
I move till October 31st on behalf of the applicant to get more information to the board.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Continued request for determination of applicability. Sandra Joseph, 42 and 44 Drift Road, West Falmouth, for permission to fill vertical voids on the top of the stone riprap and chinking the entire face, all work done by hand.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 in the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed. We're just asking that the old order of conditions be complied with, and that would be the establishment of a buffer of beach grass at the top of the wall, and that pea stone not be used because it'll just be pulled out.
Pull right out. Mike, I suppose there's a reason why you're sitting there waving to me in the front? I know you did. I almost said something earlier in the meeting, but I didn't want to embarrass you.
The one thing I would take issue with the staff recommendation is all along the top, there may be 4 holes that look like this, and you could look down some depth. I've done this activity before. What I described is where there's a vertical hole, we would soak pea stone and drop it down the hole until it's done.
Oh, I was talking about the voids in the,
Oh, no, there
Okay.
should be chinks.
yeah.
The plan says for any vertical holes, which were the small holes at the top, I think there's 4 of them. That's the place we want to put the pea stone.
So you're just going to fill it?
And then fill it up
From
and
the-
then cap it. Because voids
Yeah, that's fine.
are-
That's fine, Mike.
Voids are a killer road. And this mean high water was way out here, and now it's up on the wall, so we do have to license it, but we need an RDA
A different RDA.
license. No?
No,
if
this
you
one.
approve
Oh,
this-
you need this RDA in order to go ahead and license it. Got it. Okay,
Make a
so,
motion- Make a
right.
motion to approve the -2 as discussed.
Second.
okay, motion on the table is accept staff's recommendation, which is a negative determination, which means your client can go ahead with the work. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks, Mike.
Good night, Mike.
Can you do it in 15 minutes? That's my goal for tonight. Request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. The next item is Town of Falmouth Engineering Department, care of Peter McConerty, who's with us tonight. Chapcoit Road has several different map designations, West Falmouth, for permission to repair the existing seawall by installation of bedding stone, geotextile filter fabric, reconstruction of riprap stone revetment, installation of steel sheet pilings, steel guardrails, repaving and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the board has seen this project before. You all know Chapel Road. You know that the wall is failing. The board issued an emergency certification for the work last week. We have been working with Peter and Applied Coastal since the spring to permit this project for the board. The work has already begun. It was approved under emergency. Peter was nice enough to take some pictures out there when I stopped by and asked for some photos for the board for tonight, and it's just basically to permit the reconstruction of the entire wall along this length, because eventually it's going to need to be done. But the work they're doing right now is
Just
a
that.
section under the emergency. And then John can tell you more.
Okay. Good evening, John.
I'm John Ramsey with Applied Coastal Research and Engineering. I'm going to try to make this brief because I think everybody is familiar with this project. As you know, we did come in front of you for an emergency back in May, which you approved. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough funding to actually get the work done. So basically, Peter had to go search for some more money from FEMA to be able to pay for the project, and we came back and wanted an emergency again this fall, and are now proceeding with the work. I'd like to point out what we're trying to permit now, because we have obviously the 7 parcels we're talking about. We're actually looking at doing, permitting 876 feet, which is the total length from about the parking lot all the way up to where the granite posts are, which is the end of the public way. So we're looking at permitting, redoing the revetment in front of that whole section. What we're looking at is actually 2 phases, phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 is this approximately 220 feet section, which is the emergency that we're talking about. That's where the seawall is failing. Just do a blow-up of that. We're doing a little bit more work there for obvious reasons if you go out there. One of the things, obviously, is that this wall has been failing for a while, but it has gotten very bad since Hurricane Irene, and the road is basically, one lane of the road's been closed since then, and it's gotten worse and worse. We've also looking at sinkholes that are now migrating in both directions. The footing's undermined of the seawall for about 500-foot section. So one of the things Peter's obviously going to be doing is looking for money down the road from town meeting to expand this project. But what we're looking at right now is just doing that one section. These are pictures actually from this morning. Basically, the backhoe went out there and tapped the wall, and the wall came down completely. So really, it was in one storm when it knocked that whole section out. And so what they're planning on doing is going in here, taking the concrete out, driving the sheet piling along that section that has no cap right now, building a revetment in front of it, and as you see, the revetment is actually within the footprint of the existing stones out in front. So basically, we're staying within the footprint of the existing revetment. That revetment was built well before the loss of beach. That was actually built in the 1960s, and that revetment was not alone in high water. It is now, so we are required to go for Chapter 91, Army Corps, et cetera. So obviously, those permits kind of hold things up, which sort of forced us into this, going through the emergency to try to get this done before this whole winter season comes up. These pictures give you an idea of how cramped we are. So one of the things we've asked for, or got approved for in the emergency, is an 8-foot widening of the roadway temporarily, and that is in coastal dune. So we would just be putting down basically crushed gravel in that area, and after the project's over, we'd be taking that out, just repaving the roadway and restoring that dune area to its existing condition. Right now, there really is no vegetation there. I'm sure that we'd be happy to plant vegetation. One of the reasons why there is no vegetation there is obviously people, if you go out there, people are actually driving off the pavement to get around here, and that we've taken out vegetation over the last couple of years. Certainly, we certainly want to make sure that dune gets restored. Obviously, I guess the other thing from the resource standpoint is right now the beach is armored. This plan really didn't do it justice, but obviously there's a low-lying revetment there. It was more just dumped stone. There really is no sediment source for this coastal bank, and obviously just us building a revetment is not going to change the sediment movement along that beach in any way, form, or manner. So we're really just trying to stay within the footprint. This is, obviously one of the things we're trying to do is get a sloping revetment here. One of the things that's creating undermining The beach is lowering, we're losing sediment from underneath the wall. And all we're trying to do is break that wave energy, get filter fabric in underneath here, so we're not losing sediment any longer, and giving us some more design life out of this wall. And this wall dates back to the 1930s. Obviously, it was never built as a coastal ensuring structure. I guess what we're trying to do is revamp it so it at least can function there, at least for the next 25 years or so. And I think with that, that sort of at least describes the project. One thing I will say, we were kind of trying to push this notice of intent in just to try to get this filed. So we wanted to make sure we did the whole treatment for the whole section. So we're still waiting to get some permission from some of the owners up here. We do have permission, obviously, for everyone in the emergency area. And one other thing is I actually have a new set of plans here only because there's a mistake on the original set for who the owners are up here. But I will provide that to you with the cards that we've received from the abutters. And with that,
So, I have a question for you, but let me ask Jen a procedural question. Should we have a continuance on this if we don't have permission until they get permission?
That they require.
That they have it before they do it?
have before.
Okay. And my question to you, John, is...
How close are you to getting this? I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. How close? Is it an issue of not being able to contact the property owners or just working through the process?
I think it's mainly working through the process. I mean, everybody
So
out there
they're
seems to be...
aware that you want to do the work?
I think everybody's aware of it. Actually, I just let Peter talk to that because he's the one who's contacted them.
Good evening.
Thank you, John.
Good evening.
Peter McGonaty, town engineer. Yeah, we did send out registered return receipt letters to all the abutters north of the property. Basically, for the most part, the abutters, the property abutters that own the east side of the street own the ocean side of the street. They own the opposite side of the street. So we did send out all registered receipts. One of the property abutters had contacted me regarding, there's a set of stairs there. They wanted to make sure the stairs were going to be fine during that process. I said, that's up the road a while, but we're not going to get to that point. My intention is in the spring, and either in the fall or the following spring, to go back for another section to go back some more funding to do another section of roadway. We're out there today, if you look at it from the beach side, from the seawall on the beach side, when the excavator comes down and hits that wall, it touches that wall, it's actually falling along the pour lines, the old pour lines when they poured the wall. So the wall is basically failing. There's no reinforcement with the wall. So we're kind of running with the gun right now. We're trying to get that fixed. So I'd like to see in the next 3 years if we can get the entire roadway fixed. It might be aggressive for us, but we're looking for funding for town meeting to get it.
Madam Chairman, I think at this point it'd be fine to close it with the condition that the property owners,
Right.
obviously, their
And-
written permission be submitted to the file before they start that section of the wall.
Right, and then if you needed to modify it for any way,
Yeah.
then you could come back with an amendment or a administrative approval if it's a matter of a stairway or something.
I also think because of this project, we don't have funding for this, but it is going to be something that is going to be ongoing. It would be great to have the 5-year maximum if we can get.
Yep.
Yep.
Madam Chairman, it was staff's recommendation that they come in and permit the whole thing, because why should we just fix one, have them file a notice of intent, which is a requirement for the emergency anyway, and then
Right.
have them to have to come back in a year or two when another section is failing. We felt it was just more appropriate to just permit the whole section, and they have that permit, it's good 5 years, and then they can work on getting funding and repairing that as needed.
Right, I feel like we've been working on this for 5 years. Did you have
5
a
months.
question?
Oh, no, a comment. Glad to see you here. We've engaged others on the board and yourselves. This is going to be monitored on a daily basis, and I have every confidence that if there's some kind of slip-up, it's going to be immediate. I do not anticipate that because I was received not only identifying myself as a commissioner, but somebody that has to use the roadway, and everybody has been very cognizant of all the people that live out on the island and all the activities in the parking lot. Unloading and staging the equipment, you can tell what kind of attitude these guys had, because they were very concerned about all the people that were windsurfing at the time, and they gave them a buffer, and they were very aware of the activities there. I'm impressed. I need that, your first impression, so far, everything's right on the numbers, and boy, did that need attention. This was a very lonely child. This thing fell like unbelievable, and it's a big hole. Glad you're doing it.
And as for traffic, we also have a detail daily. There'll be a traffic police detail daily, Monday to Friday. That's the hours, they're working hours, so,
Okay,
for the
good.
duration of the project.
Ed, any questions?
Nope. Long overdue.
Any questions?
I was out today. I was very pleased to see that it looks like what you think you're going to see. I was worried about driving the sheeting, and I don't think you're going to have a problem. The only one I'd say is to the east side. It would be pretty easy to let equipment meander too far to the east and kind of honor that right hand, that 8-foot barrier. You got that 8-foot strip?
Maybe just put some orange,
Put some orange
you know,
flagging,
orange,
or something over there just to keep,
fencing?
yeah.
What's that
to
stuff
get-
called?
To get traffic coming and going and
Orange
somebody can go over.
construction.
It sounds, at least from talking to the contractor today, he didn't seem to think that you need the whole 8 feet, especially because you've got the telephone poles there.
Right.
And so people really do have to slow down quite a bit, and obviously with the traffic detail, et cetera. I think we're probably not going to need the whole 8 feet, but it's probably a good idea to have the orange tape at 8 feet to make sure nobody wanders outside it.
Yeah.
I think they're going
That's
to try
the
to
only-
stay on whatever gravel pack he puts, which is probably not going to be the full 8 feet.
That'd be great.
Yeah, but just to ensure it, in case someone decides to do off-road, off-roads through the dunes. We know that that's not unheard of in town.
What works well out there is Public Works will work close with the contractor. I've already expressed, if they need anything, if they had put any stories, they can come right over to our facility. And what has worked in the past out there is we put the orange barricades. We put sandbags
okay.
on top of them and it weights them down, so we might be able to put something like that along the side.
Yeah, because there might be some winds coming up this weekend,
Yeah.
so something that isn't going to blow away either.
The first words out of the contractor's mouth this morning when he showed up was the storm. And I didn't hear about it at the time, but he had heard about it.
So I said to somebody this morning, I don't think everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew that.
Let's hope it's not the perfect storm, another perfect storm.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for Bermuda.
I know, well, that's the choice, but right now, it's inching further to the west.
Well, it depends on whether it's the American projection or the European
Yeah, exactly.
projection. There seems
Yeah,
to be some
Yeah, the European projection has it
some
whacking,
competing
has it whacking us.
forecasting out there.
Yeah.
John, I'll take those plans first.
Do you,
And Peter, can we have those pictures?
wait, we're not done,
Oh, no,
guys.
she just wanted to-
All right,
When that concrete wall is failing, when was that poured?
That existing concrete wall was poured during the WPA, the Work Association in the 1930s.
oh my,
Public
we're
Works
circling
Association.
back
So
again to that,
It's been back there, and and at this time, you can see it's at the end of its life. There was the wall was, the existing wall, actually, during our presentation to the selectmen a couple of weeks back, this photo was taken just 2 weeks ago. And it's actually a bowl in the wall when you look at that wall. It's actually bowing out, and there's a pivot, there was a pivot point right in the middle of that wall, and just a little small piece of that concrete on the seaward side that fell off that wall it was basically being held together by gravity and friction from the other sections of the wall, it was holding it in place.
And when you say it wasn't reinforced, is there literally no steel structure and no rebar?
It was-
Just poured concrete? And so that's something they're gonna do with
Thank
you.
Actually,
It's a
the
steel
concrete
one.
is being removed and they're driving steel. They're gonna be driving steel sheeting.
That was all.
Take one,
Okay.
pass.
Thank you.
thanks. I just want to make one other comment, which I think is instructive, and that is the last two projects we've heard, both of them are riprap, which previously didn't need Chapter 91 permits, but now do need Chapter 91 permits because high tide is now higher. Yeah.
Well, it's also, it's not just the high tides, Sarah. We've lost, if you look at back to the 1960s, there's been a lot of erosion on this beach. The sediment sources further south are well known. And so we've lost about 75 feet of beach since the 1960s.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a combination. When the water comes up, you have more energy with storms, et cetera. Okay, do we need any other information then?
I just have a question. I read all the time, and my wife tells me I'm obsessed with the issue of sea level rise. And in the engineering for this particular project, have you looked ahead 25 or 30 years to consider what might happen if you have the projecting as much as 5.5 feet, I guess, in 50 or 75 years or something like that? All right. Have you thought about that at all?
In this project, I mean, I think that what we're looking for, I mean, even worst case projections for the next 25 years or somewhere around a foot. Because it's obviously accelerates. And I think that's more what the sort of design life we're looking for here. Obviously, at some point, if it gets much worse than that, the houses at the end here are in jeopardy, and maybe there's no need for this roadway. But I think that at least for the life of this and trying to maintain the roadway, we're looking at something that's not an unheard of. Probably since this wall was built, we've had a foot of sea level rise on that order. So we're looking for another foot, and that will be fine. Now, if we get more frequent storms or more frequent, at least hurricanes, tropical storms going to Pleasant Bay, then that's kind of sets all bets off. But the information on that is a little bit spotty. I guess the consensus on that is not consistent, so it's hard to determine whether that's actually going to happen. We do our best, within reason.
Well, it's just going to continue to be an issue and a growing issue and a more complex issue as time goes on. I said, I can look ahead. I will not be sitting on this commission at that time, and I think that's probably a good thing. It's going to be very difficult.
I guess one of the things for sea level rise we try to do is we certainly try to get more towards slope revetments, deeper toe stones, oversized stone if we can, within reason. Just knowing that it's going to be exposed to bigger waves as the beach continues to lower is what you're really after. And that's about the best you can do without reasonable landform, which we're really not allowed to do with FEMA.
Okay.
And as far as timing for the project, I started with the town in 2007, and we've been tracking that seawall since 2007, and that was one of the projects I started with. And we wanted to in 2009 they started the bridge. We didn't want to be taking the heavy trucks over there carrying the revetments.
Until you had a stronger bridge.
The bridge was, so the bridge is completed, there's no weight limit on the bridge, and now we're able to you'll be seeing the trucks going over there with the revetment stone, so.
Well, good luck. We'd all like this to work at least for the rest of our lifetimes.
Make a motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, any other questions here? Mike, you have any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to close this hearing and take it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, is Bob going to be out there all the time?
These are taped on there, so I'll just deliver you
Yeah,
a copy of
bring
them.
them over. Is Bob?
We'll have a clerk out there daily. It'll be probably Bob Williams or myself or Scott. It'll be someone else.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to know. Okay, great, thank you.
There's
So
going to be,
when I go by, I'll know you guys are there.
there's going to be many eyes on that.
Augustine and Denise
Thank you,
Santola,
John.
123 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, has been continued to November 7th. Continued request to amend the existing order of conditions. Philip Cavallo, 297 Quaker Road, North Falmouth, request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP number 253764, to modify the existing deck, reconstruct steps, incorporate a landing, and install a stone wall. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the commission saw this project briefly for a deck expansion. The board asked to modify the deck and the location of the footings to save the beech tree.
Could be this one.
That's adjacent to that proposed structure, and so Mike has come up with a modification of that deck. There is no, I don't have a quorum. So Mike, if you could just give an overview of the project, because I don't think we have the quorum from the last.
So we're
hearing.
going to reset the quorum,
Okay.
right?
sure.
Because it's,
Okay.
they're only, it's only Tom and me. Unless you want to risk having the two of us.
Ed.
No, I'm only kidding. No, Ed wasn't there.
Well, for the
No,
record,
you're
my
looking
name is
at the
Mike
11th.
Borselli, and I represent the applicant. And if you remember this property, you reviewed a couple of different orders of, notices of intent. The Cavallos did some extensive landscaping, driveway reconstruction, subsequent to house renovation. And you approved the work, all the work is done, with the exception of this one area. The original plan had a different proposal for this timber, what we're calling a patio, only because it's at grade. It's flush with the ground, or it was proposed to be flush with the ground. And we had come in to ask permission to build this connection from the existing deck over to an existing fireplace so that they could make use of the area, and they have saved that old outside fire barbecue, and they wanted an opportunity to use this area. And the original plan was to, because there's a grade change here, the grade drops about 2.5 feet, was to make it flush with the lower side grade, which would require you to build a retaining wall that had an average height of 2.5 to 3 feet, which would also have a footing. And it was Commissioner Harlow Hawks who had raised a concern about the potential damage to the root system to a significant beech tree, 20-inch diameter beech tree. So we continued the hearing so we could investigate that. We went out to the site with an arborist who I cannot remember his name at the moment. It was a referral from Blue Flax Design just to get an opinion if there would be potential damage, and he said that there very well could have been damage. So the solution that is before you now is to continue to have the same size, but to have it on 2 levels, 2 8-foot levels, 8-foot wide levels, instead of 1 overall 16-foot wide level. That would allow this upper level to be at grade and not need the retaining wall. And then there would be further away from the beech tree, just an 18-inch or so height row of stones, if you will, under that deck. And there'd be some steps down about 2 feet from this deck to that deck to a lower level. The whole reason that we need to, the whole goal was to keep it flush with the ground so that it would be flush with the fire pit. If it's elevated, then the fire pit is lower than the deck, and it just doesn't work. So the applicant reviewed this with us and understands how this will work and accepted that, so that's the proposal now. So the root system won't be threatened, and he'll still get, it won't be 1 overall level, but it'll be 2 workable levels.
But they're wide enough that you
They're
can
still
have
wide enough.
furniture on it.
Yes.
Right.
So that's the change.
Okay. Jen?
I have no comments or questions.
Ed?
No question.
No questions.
Mike?
No question.
Tommy? I have no questions either.
Make a motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay. I don't even have an audience to ask if there are any questions. All in favor of motion on the table, which is to close this hearing and take it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks,
you.
Mike. Continued requests for hearings under a certificate of compliance. Nantucket Sound Trust, lots 3 and 4, Davis Neck Road, East Falmouth, requests that a certificate of compliance be granted for the seawall reconstruction under DEP 253682. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is a carryover from a couple of weeks ago. The applicant had requested a hearing before the board to protect their rights under your regulations. At this point, I can report that The property is in compliance. It is behind you to sign tonight. They have posted a bond for the monitoring, plus a 10% replacement cost of plant material. So
So we can just vote, we vote the order?
issuing a certificate of compliance.
Okay.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for lots 3 and 4 Davis Neck Road.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you for resolving that. Continued enforcement issues, Black Beach Harbor Association, William Resnikoff, Stephen Doyle, Lawrence Lynch, and the entire length of roadways for Little Neck Bars Road, et cetera.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we continue this to explore additional enforcement actions with the parties involved, and after considering that, the staff does not believe that that is necessary at this time. I had a conversation with Jack Lander's colleague today, and I'm pleased to announce that the Homeowners Association is actively engaged in pursuing a filing of the notice of intent required by this board during the previous discussions on the enforcement hearing. The field work and groundwork has been done. It is completed. They're continuing to survey the wetland delineations that have been completed by Jack Vaccaro. Jack Lander's colleagues' goal, along with Mr. Vaccaro and the association, is to have a filing with you by the end of December. We're hoping to get their data analyzed and plotted by mid-November to get a filing to you by December. You gave them a deadline of February. So they
Great.
are engaged, they're actively pursuing that, and it's encouraging. So
Okay, hopefully they can get their work done in the spring
and I've
have it ready
offered
for
to
the
meet
summer.
with them when they have their survey completed to look at the various options the town had suggested before as far as grading, because they do have a tight site. They don't have a lot of room, they don't have the ability to sink fancy drainage structures down there, given the nature of the road. So I offered to work with them going forward, so it's encouraging.
Great.
So you can close this enforcement hearing finally?
Do we have to take a motion? I mean,
Yeah.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
And one comment, if I may, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank staff for making a conduit of communication which just seemed to elude us for a long time. Thank you for all the extra efforts that I've personally got to witness. And I hope that if anybody in the association is watching this evening, that they understand that we are really interested in extending ourselves for a solution to this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to close this hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Madam Chairman, I just had a question. Are you intending to vote on Maxwell or Nazaro this evening? Because if not,
No, Mike, which one's Maxwell?
13 Ocean View.
Ocean Ave.
Where's 13? Why is it on my thing? Oh, there it is. No.
No? Thank you.
I was gonna let you know, Mike. I wasn't gonna make you sit here anymore. I just didn't get the opportunity.
Okay, good night, Mike.
Good night, Mike.
Do you have any to vote?
I think
Because I think we
told
have a busy-
Realty Trust we would vote then. That's the amendment with the blended enforcement where we,
That's all inclusive.
That was all the same.
375 Shorewood.
375 Sherwood.
And that's the amendment. I told Wayne Tavares we would vote that for them tonight if you remember.
Oh, so they could get started.
That
Right.
was last week where they wanted the amendments instead of the enforcement, and there were the 4 areas. One was the salt marsh that had, we are gonna require that they just leave alone, stop mowing. It looks like it's coming back. There's not really a necessity to add plantings in that area. To permit the vista pruning to a height of 5 feet with the,
Encouraging the native stuff to come up.
encouraging the native trees to come back. to plant the path. That will require additional plantings, as well as planting a little bit of the salt marsh that was altered and mowed. But that is the bulk of the amendment. You can,
So this is a house that's being sold by the people who got the,
correct,
who got the thing for that,
correct.
changing the house, but they haven't done anything with the house yet?
No.
Okay,
No, this amendment is strictly seaward of the pool, work seaward of the pool, and is just landscaping
okay,
and property maintenance.
okay, but there's still that open order out there.
There is. Once this is completed, this is an amendment, it's attached to that order.
Right,
They'll need to close out everything.
but they haven't started.
No, well, this amendment, they did start because the enforcement orders
Oh, right.
that went in and Vista pruned.
Right.
One, they didn't record their order before they did that, and two, they.
Oh, that's right, they did
much
this
more than
landscaping work
yes,
before
did
they
the-
recorded the order.
Yes.
Right,
And their landscaping work went above and beyond what was permitted.
right, okay, and I don't think we,
But we discussed it last week. I didn't think that enforcement was necessary.
Right.
The stuff can get tied into an amendment. It's all very small stuff.
right. So could we have a motion?
Motion to accept the amendment as discussed.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Do we want to do any
Madam Chairman,
others?
you can do is 171 Webb, 171 Worcester Court. That's just the reconstruction of the industrial area.
FW Webb Company, 171 Worcester Court, Falmouth.
Oh, I have a form on that, so. I'm sorry, Susan.
The other quorum was the five of us. I mean, because we closed it last week and we were all here last week. So
Yeah,
it's the
Webb,
five
it's
of
all
us.
five of them as well. And that's just the industrial, they did all the stormwater work.
Right.
That's Webb.
171 Worcester Court.
171 Worcester Court, FW Webb Company. Staff had no concerns and no real additional requirements for special conditions on this project. Their stormwater, they went through the Stormwater Management Act. They provided all screening plants along the
Yeah,
edge
and
of the
and
property line.
improved
Yep,
drainage.
absolutely.
Okay,
Make a motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second?
any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Any others?
No.
Okay. Other business, amend minutes of April 25, 2012.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Pat Harris asked that we amend the minutes for this. It's the McGann discussion on the fence. Basically, on your, and it's a very, very simple change, April 25th,
Do we have
page
this?
15, when the board
think-
is
I
discussing.
don't think we have it. You're
No,
going to
we
tell
don't
us,
have
you're
it.
telling us.
The board is discussing
Discussing.
the motion that was made. Tom Corvo said, move to accept the order of conditions as written and discussed. And if you read the tape, Tom said actually to move to accept a positive order of conditions. So, written and discussed, and then,
We want to change, we want to
opposed
change it.
Yeah, you put a positive motion on the table, and that is what she would like reflected in the minutes. It was
Okay.
silent on that. So it's a positive motion, a positive order of conditions, and then you all know that you voted that project down.
Yeah,
So we're just
but it's a
amending
positive.
the minutes to place them into the administrative record.
All right,
No problem.
I'd like to make a motion to have the minutes amended for April 25th to reflect the discussion that we just had.
Second?
okay, everybody with us? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, that was quick. I was waiting for Ed to say it, but he was yawning too much.
Yeah, I've been yawning all night long.
Second.
Such an
All-
exciting meeting.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We got to sign, though.
Sign, everybody.
Don't sign the ones that are turned over. This is the Land Bank Atlas, if you would like to see it. One quick,
That's going to be, where is that going to be, Jen?
What?
The Atlas?
It's down in my office.
Okay. I don't want to see it now, but...
And when we get the main office back up and running, I'll place it in there. I just, sometimes when things go in there, they tend to disappear. So
145 acres in there is my stewardship.
I know.
That's a nice program. The program's been developing nicely.
Yeah,
through the
yeah.
years.
Betsy, Emily's last name.
I'm a steward of a secret parcel that very few people have visited.
Yours is a secret parcel?
Yeah, it runs from the Rain Trail east, and it's 145 acres.
Wow.
The whole stretch that's south of Ballymead.
Oh.
But north of Thomas Land is
Yeah, but it's all surrounded by.
Well, it's
It doesn't have any.
all woods.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
A couple of
does that
trails.
Yeah, but just like game trails. I mean.
Well, only a couple of kids in the local community use it,
Yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Betsy, can I have the minutes that you were discussing too?
Well, that's what I was looking for.
Okay, wait, first of all, Betsy, come here.
I know you want Emily's last name, but I can't.
I can look on that town.
Yeah, or if you could look into 300 committee,
Yeah,
or
I'll-
Kellenoff or something like.
Yeah, I'll go on.
Kelly, I think it's like,
Where did Tommy go?
I mean, look it up.
Did he leave?
It's like, I think it's like Katie or like.
So, Tom, we went to this meeting this morning, Scott Schutler and I. Oh, Betsy, you missed a great meeting.
Which ones we signed?
Oh. I mean.
On hurricanes and storm surges in Buzzards Bay for Buzzards Bay Action.
Well, I think it would, and we're gonna be more.
Oh my God, and they're talking about Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Irene, and it was a guy from the Weather Service, and he was kind of an alarmist. We're like,
I
you
need
don't
the
really
other
know how you
minutes,
sleep at night,
so I
buddy.
can show.
So we're calling, we're
You
texting
were sharing
Peter,
with me.
going, don't start the wall, don't start the wall. And we're texting him at like 8 o'clock in the morning.